Ayy, look, yeah, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
Topic of the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's go ahead and move off to them, and let's go ahead and talk about their make or break year. As we all know, the last time the Los Angeles Chargers took the football field, aside from preseason, these guys were on the opposite end of a blown 27-point lead, wild card loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I remember we were having a conversation before that game, regardless of how that game would have went. As if the Chargers were to lose, we all thought Brandon Staley wouldn't have access to the building on Monday morning. But, as a couple of days went on, a couple of months went on, the Chargers made an executive decision that they were going to keep him. They went ahead and fired their offensive coordinator, brought in the Cowboys' old offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, and, they hit the ground running again. I guess, they're running it back one more time with Staley, giving him another chance. This guy with under 3 seasons with this team has a record of 19-15, so it's not a really good record to have, obviously, especially going into last season with how much hype they had and all the injuries that they dealt with. It's not a card that the Chargers fans can pull. They can't just say, well, we were injured when we blew a 27-point lead. Like, Trevor Lawrence had 4 picks in that game. Everything was going perfect for them in that first half, but everything just went downhill after that. Brandon Staley, the defensive-minded head coach that we thought he was, just really couldn't cook up some sort of scheme to slow down that Jacksonville Jaguars offense without Calvin Ridley, I should add. So, what is the expectation for the Los Angeles Chargers this season?
I mean, I think when they look at it, I had them 10 wins being in this season. I think for them, like, they want to see their offseason acquisition from last year at least pay off. Like, they want to see the dividends that they invested in last season pay off in some sort of way. I don't think they're sitting here thinking, okay, we're Super Bowl contenders, but they do believe that they have a remote shot at making it far into the playoffs with, the additions of Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams being healthy. They have Austin Eckler there, and of course, their star quarterback in Justin Herbert. I think they're looking at it like, okay, we have to make at least some sort of push into the playoffs. We don't want to be in a situation where we're barely making it into the playoffs. We're in a wild card spot constantly. I feel like they're looking at it like we at least have to get 10 wins minimum into this season. And I feel like in the back of their minds, I agree and I respect them for it if they believe we got to finish above the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, will they do that? I don't think so, but that's a mentality that they got to have coming into the season, that we're going to finish above the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Justin Herbert has more than enough ability to be able to get these guys to 10 wins. Last year, a lot of their pass catchers got healthy, and you would just see a lot of checkdowns to Austin Eckler. Their deep passing game completely was eradicated once their pass catchers got injured last season. So, they got Mike Williams, they got Keenan Allen, they got Quentin Johnson, they got Austin Eckler. Now, I just feel like this team just has to perform in some sort of capacity. That doesn't have to mean Super Bowl or bust, but that definitely means that they have to get more than 9 wins. Maybe that's 10, maybe that's 11. I don't know, but they can be almost sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, like I said, if they're on that edge, fight for that 7th spot, and they make it barely to the playoffs, or they don't get in with 10 wins, Staley got to go. He has to go 100%. Even last year, like I said, decision making, you can't use that excuse in the end of the game. Like, oh, we're missing players, but you're gonna say, oh, we're missing defensive players. Your team ended up with 4 interceptions. The blame got to go somewhere. Keenan's playing the game. He had a great game going against that Jacksonville team. Eckler's healthy. You got Mike Williams that was healthy. So it's like you have your pieces, and what's the excuse for blowing a 27-point lead? You can't use the injury excuse. So what is it? It has to fall back to Staley and how he coaches the team. And like the year before that, even I think it was that last game against the Raiders, it was a tie game. The Raiders could hit that field goal, and he was over there on the sideline thinking, hey, we can go for a tie here or something like that. Both of us can make the playoffs. Like, the mentality that he has is kind of soft to me, and I feel like they are going to fall short this year again due to him. And you're wasting Herbert, you're wasting some elite talent on offense. You might not have Eckler coming into that next year. You might not have Keenan coming into that next year. And it's all due to Staley. So for me, I feel like they're going to fall short of that playoff threshold. And then Staley's going to get his head cut off. It's time for him to go. So they go cut him.
I think the thing is, I understand. Like, obviously, Staley coming into this season is on the hot seat. There's no other way you can put it. He was lucky enough to earn himself another season with this team, but this is the final straw. There's no other excuse, no other card he can pull it from under his sleeve to help him, get out of the situation. How can he save his job? I'm not too sure if winning the division saves his job, but it'll definitely help. I think they just got to make the playoffs. I think they got to win a couple playoff games, at least maybe make an AFC Championship game push, and then maybe they might consider, bringing him back for another year. But obviously, with how stacked the AFC is, I personally just cannot see the Los Angeles Chargers making the AFC Championship game. But aside from Brandon Staley, I understand he's going to be the first guy to get all the heat. Another guy that kind of just flies under the radar, doesn't necessarily get too much heat. He hasn't gotten too much heat for blowing a 27-point lead as their starting quarterback, their leader in the locker room, Justin Herbert. I understand last year everything went wrong for him. The year before that, he was having a great season. I think he might have had like maybe 45 plus touchdowns, something like that. And then coming into this year, last season, it wasn't so great because all of his pass catchers were hurt. So at some point, Keenan Allen missed some time. Mike Williams missed some time. It was just pretty much him and Eckler playing catch. His left tackle, his right tackle got injured. Rashawn Slater. So it's just like, I understand the circumstances he was put in. It wasn't the greatest, but, and I understand why they went after a wide receiver in the draft. But in the playoff game, man, when you're up 27, as a quarterback, you got to understand, you got to put that nail in the coffin. That's not enough. It should be enough, hypothetically speaking, it should be enough when you have a 27-point lead, to win a playoff game. But, seeing that your defense isn't doing much to stop these guys, he should have taken it upon himself, to take over the game and just put the game on ice. He finished the game with 25, 43, 273 and a touchdown. It's not really what we expect from a guy like Justin Herbert. The thing is, we've heard the conversations, we've heard the debates because it started off with him and Burrow. Then Burrow kind of separated himself. Now there's kind of like a very large gap between the two. And now we're hearing what conversations and debates between him and Lamar Jackson and him and Jalen Hurts and stuff like that. Like, I think Justin Herbert is talented. Like, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great quarterback, but I also don't think he should be in conversations with those two other quarterbacks. But he just hasn't gone out there and shown me. It might just be me, but at the end of the day, I just I see the facts for what they are, see the numbers for what they are. And I just don't understand how, he's not able to, capitalize on a great situation that he was in a wild card game. And the thing is, everybody was waiting for this moment. Everybody was waiting for the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert, to make his debut in the playoffs. And, when he got that opportunity, everything was looking good for one half. And in that second half, there's not much going for them. So, at the end of this season, depending on how he plays and how their season ends, if it's anything short than 2 playoff wins, Brandon Staley is gone. And then depending on how Justin Herbert plays, I just feel like we're gonna have to have a lot of uncomfortable conversations. But I hope that's just not me talking though. I hope that's just not me thinking it.
I mean, like I give him I'm not too harsh on him for last season. Of course, the playoff game wasn't what we were expecting in terms of them being 27-0. I think he didn't have a particularly good game at all, considering the fact that they're up 27-0. They didn't put the nail in the coffin, but, there's a combination of the fact that there wasn't a true running game. The defense started to get smoked, and then he didn't play great as well. And so, of course, I think he should be held accountable for that game. But overall, in the course of that season, your pass catchers go down, and they didn't really have like an elite separator when you look at that team last season. Keenan Allen looked like an absolute corpse in the games that he was actually playing. Mike Williams, he was in and out of the lineup. I think he played about 13 games, but even then, he wasn't really the downfield threat that they needed. And so they went for a guy like Quentin Johnson, who is going to be that downfield separator, that guy that they're going to be able to go and utilize Herbert's like arm strength and be able to throw it deep. And so last season, I can't be as harsh on him as like I want to be, just because of the circumstances that surrounded him. But definitely coming into this season, people around him are healthy. Everybody on the offense is healthy. I'm expecting a big season from him. And so this is a season that I really want to critique with him because, if there's some blame that's deserved, then 100% it would go to the quarterback because you have expectations for Justin Herbert considering how talented he is. So, this is a season I think that I wouldn't call it a make or break season for him because he has proven how talented he is. I mean, that's 2 seasons ago. He threw for 41 touchdowns and like 5,000 yards. I mean, the guy's absolutely incredible. But yeah, I think this season is going to be definitely a litmus test to see how far he can take this team when they're healthy. So.
Yeah. Damn, I gotta go back. I was gonna say, I don't know, man. To me, you know, the amount of times he threw in that playoff game, 43 times, just to end up with about 270 yards, a little suspicious to me. You know, you got all your receivers, you got all your running backs and everything. I get the lack of the run game not working, and I get the lack of teams just sitting in the zone waiting for them to pass the ball, taking away the deep ball most of the time, and him just throwing it out, you know, 5 yards in, 5 yards out, just dump offs and stuff. I feel like the offense got to switch up, man, and I want to see this year how it works with Quentin Johnson. You know, they drafted Quentin for a reason. They, you know, for him to help Mike Williams open up that deep ball more of the game. You know, Keenan's more of the slot guy, the short routes guy, the guy that can get open quick, you know, with his route running. But we'll see, you know, and they still have that same issue with the run game. It's like, you know, if they're going to change their offense, how's it going to work? Are they going to involve the run game more, or are they just going to go back to that same stick and go offense that they had last year? To me, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work in the league at all. That's why they lost that game against the Jaguars in the playoffs. Ultimately, second half, they came up none with offense. Passing wise, running wise, there was nothing to show. They got figured out. They couldn't put a point on the board, and you know, I don't know. For me, Herbert, he's up there as a quarterback, but I will give him this extra year to come out and prove himself. I know he's against Staley in the type of offense he has. So, you know, they did fire the offensive coordinator from last year. They hired another one this year, and we'll see how it switches. But he has to show up in those big opportunities in big games. Like I said, you know, against the Jaguars, it was a no-show. Against the Raiders the year before to make the playoffs, you know, he quieted down in that late fourth quarter. It wasn't much. He wasn't showed up. And it's like, you know, big opportunities come, big game moments. You got to be that type of quarterback. You know, you got to be on that Mahomes level if you want to be in the arguments like that. If you got to be on that Joe Burrow's type level, you know, to be in those type of arguments. You feel me? So he's got to show some. So but we'll see this upcoming season. I'm not gonna say, hey, this guy's horrible. A lot of blame is gonna be put on him for what happened last season. I'm not gonna do that, but I want to see what he does this year with a fully healthy team.
I just think it's a crazy look, especially that 2 seasons ago when he was on the sidelines hoping for a tie, and they caught him at 4K. Next thing you know, he makes the playoffs. No need for a tie, and you end up blowing a 27-point lead. Man, I just know that, you know, coming out of this season, if it's not a great season for him, that the microscope's going to be he's going to be under the microscope heavily going into that next season. There's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations that are going to have to, you know, be held surrounding Justin Herbert and where he ranks amongst these top quarterbacks. But, you know, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see on that.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now late, now that's overkill.